As we take a third and final look at Psalm 24, I want to encourage you to use your imagination. There are times when that so wonderfully helps bring to life certain parts of the Bible. But let me remind you why. When we began this little look at Psalm 24, I mentioned that one of the possible historical background settings for this was David preparing to bring the Ark of the Covenant into Jerusalem. It had been out of Jerusalem for many, many years. And it's almost as if he's writing an instruction manual for the people of how to handle the holy things of God, how to worship God. And that's particularly true as we come to the last part of this psalm. We've seen the beginning of the psalm describes God in all his glory. The middle section describes how we come to him. And now in the closing verses, it speaks about how God comes to his people. And this was also a Sunday psalm. And as some commentators have pointed out, would have been the psalm being sung liturgically in the temple in Jerusalem, even as Jesus is entering Jerusalem on Palm Sunday. So here's how I want you to consider using your imagination just a little bit. Just imagine this cacophonous noise that would have welcomed the Ark of the Covenant into Jerusalem in David's day. And the call is to the walls and the gates and the entrances of the physical city of Jerusalem, never mind the people of Jerusalem, to open wide their hearts, to fling open the doors, to welcome with open arms the Ark which represented the presence of God among his people. It's hard to imagine a day of greater celebration among the people of God of old. But think of it too on another level. Think of this as heaven receiving Jesus following his great conquest on Calvary, his resurrection from the dead, and now his ascension into glory. Think of it as the world receiving Jesus back as he comes at the end of time, the all-conquering King. The command is just as clear and just as relevant. Lift up your heads, lift up your gates, welcome this one. Look how he's described in these verses. He is the King of glory. He's the King of glory, the one who's won great battles. And this, of course, if the historical setting is true, this is right on the back of David having finally conquered the Philistines and therefore bringing God's covenant ark back into Jerusalem. He's won his spurs, as it were, if I could use very human language, about our all-conquering sovereign God. So he's the all-glorious, almighty, all-victorious God. We should welcome him because of that. He's also described here as the Lord of hosts. Who is this King of glory? He's the Lord of hosts, the King of glory. The Lord of hosts is an interesting term. It's Yahweh Sabaoth. It's the term used in the Old Testament to speak about God's relationship over the entire host of all his created things, not just the angelic forces, though they are included, but over everything. He's the Lord of everything. He's the Lord of hosts. He's the Lord of the armies of heaven. He's the Lord of the armies of Israel. He's the Lord of everything in the world. He's the one that we welcome when we welcome Jesus in our worship. And there's one more point of application we should remember here. Is this how we welcome Jesus into our lives and enthrone him and recognize him as our King, as our Lord, as our personal sovereign? That's what this psalm is saying. Because of who he is, the God of all creation, the God of all holiness. Therefore we need to come to him with clean hands, a pure heart, not giving our souls to what is false, not swearing deceitfully, but to give full-throated, exuberant, unreserved, unrestrained, unqualified welcome into our hearts and into our lives. It reminded me of that little chorus that we used to sing a number of years ago. I don't think we've sung it quite so often recently. Lift up your heads to the coming King. Bow before him and adore him. Sing. To his majesty, let your praises be pure and holy, giving glory to the King of kings. That's a great personal response, isn't it, to this great psalm. The Lord bless you.